Good morning, Art 101 class. Today we are going to be exploring something called tessellations. It's kind of a mix between math and art, but don't let that scare you. Trust me, I am not a math person, and I still find this very fun and creative, and even a little bit relaxing. We are going to be creating our own unique designs to form a tessellation. Now, what is a tessellation? I think the easiest way to show you or to explain what a tessellation is to show you. And ours are going to be inspired by the artist M.C. Escher. And I happen to have a book on M.C. Escher, so I'm going to grab that and I'll show you some examples of tessellations from my book. And then hopefully I can find some even more online and I will add them to this video. So this is my book about M.C. Escher, and this is one of my favorite tessellations that he did because he was so creative. He figured out a way to start with a normal tessellation, which is a shape that repeats itself and fits into itself like a puzzle. And I will show you how we're going to make one of those. It's not as hard as it looks. But he found a way to transform it so it looks like it starts as a fish down here and transforms into a bird at the top. I just think that's so amazing. Here's another one that kind of transforms. It starts as just very simple geometric triangle shapes and slowly morphs into a bird, which then takes flight out of the pattern and starts to become actual birds flying in the air. Now, again, we are not M.C. Escher, we are not mathematicians, and we're not going to be doing this like complicated of tessellations, so don't get too scared while watching these. Just enjoy the interesting artwork that you see. Again, he transforms them, so these ones are frogs, and they morph into triangles in the middle. And then these, I don't know if that's blurry for you, but these ones are like a fish that morphs into the triangles. And these are doves that morph into the triangle, and on this side it's more of like a crow shape that morphs into the triangle. They all morph into the triangle in the middle. He even found ways to make them like three-dimensional. And here's a more, it almost looks like a mandala, but it is a tessellation because this kind of fish, abstracted fish shape fits into itself, and it starts out small and gets bigger. This could keep going. And again, he was being very creative, making them swirl into each other. But you can see how it is one shape that is repeated over and over. And he plays with kind of positive and negative space as well, because this shape is the same as this orange shape, but they fit into each other. This fish is going this way and this fish is going this way. Lots of interesting designs. Ooh, this one's kind of interesting because the shapes are an angel and a demon, but they fit into each other like a puzzle. So it's like a puzzle shape that repeats itself. Here's a pretty one with butterflies. Starts as a geometrical like puzzle shape, almost like tiles that interlock, and then he's gone even further and kind of created them morphing into like flying out of the pattern, and now they're individual butterflies. A couple more I want to show you. I'm just so intrigued by this artist. I could never do something like this. This one starts out as our typical tessellation, which is flat shapes that interlock in a pattern. But then he changes the pattern to become these three-dimensional cube shapes. And these very realistic shapes of these people walking down the stairs are actually then flattened and become the pattern in this tessellation. So cool. And then again, he plays with that idea of shape and perspective, because here on this floor, that's supposed to be like a flat tile floor, but it repeats that same pattern of these cubes, which are three-dimensional in this part of the picture, but then are flat over here. So he's really good at changing things to look, it's like an optical illusion. It looks flat and it turns into 3D, and then it can turn back into flat. It's very cool. Same here with that optical illusion. It starts out flat shapes, tessellations of these lizards, but then the lizards crawl out of the paper and become three-dimensional objects, three-dimensional animals that go around and then crawl back into the paper and become flat again. I think Escher is one, that's the one that's on the front of this. But Escher is one of those artists who is just a master at shading and creating three-dimensionality with value. So when we practice our shading with pencil or charcoal, I mean, I just strived to be as good as Escher at making things look real, like they pop out of the page. He's so good at that. Here's a picture of Mr. M.C. Escher if you're interested. He does a lot of other things in here. They're not all tessellations. A lot of them have tessellations in them, and they're kind of a mix, but here's some other ones that are interesting and maybe you've seen them before. I know you've seen this one before because we used this as one of our very first projects at the beginning of the year when we were practicing finding values with those, when we did the hole punches and you had to figure out which values, the lighter, the midtones, and the dark, that was this eye that we were doing. So I've always liked that eye. This is one with the creepy skull and the reflection. And here's another one of a leaf with a water droplet on it. And he's so good at making things look 3D and showing the reflections. So he's really a master at reflections too. See the reflection of the window and like the air trapped in those little veins of the leaf, make it look bright. So cool. Alright, I'm done geeking out about M.C. Escher now, and let's learn how to make our own version of a tessellation. Alright, for this project you will need a 9x12 piece of paper, could be drawing paper, and you'll also need a piece of a thicker paper, such as this cardstock. It just needs to have a little bit of weight to it so that it's not so flimsy when we create our tessellation stencil with it. And I know I said we're not going to do a lot of math. There is a little bit of math, and you will need a ruler for that little bit. I promise, it's just a little. So I've already started. I'm going to let you know what I did here. So I have my 9x12 paper and I've gridded it into 3-inch squares. How I did that is I took my ruler and I laid it at the top of my page, and so I've got 12 inches across. But I made a little mark on my 3-inch, 6-inch, 9-inch, and then the 12 is the edge of the paper, so I didn't need to make a mark there. Then I moved my ruler down towards the bottom of my page, and I made another little hash mark that was on the 3-inch, 6-inch, 9-inch, and then 12 is at the edge of the paper. Once I had my 2 hash marks, I turned my ruler vertical, and I have a knock at my door. Just a minute. So once you have those hash marks, you're going to turn your ruler so that it's now vertical and line it up with those 2 hash marks that you made. 1, 2, and draw your line. Move over to the next one, line it up, 1, 2, draw that line. And the last one, line it up. There's a 1 line, there's the 2 lines, and there we go. You're going to turn your whole paper around and you're going to do that again, only this time, because this is skinnier, it's not 12 inches, it's 9 inches. Whoops. We will only have 2 hash marks. So you line up your ruler so that you can mark where 3 inches is and 6 inches. You want to mark where 3 is, mark where 6 is. Bring your ruler down towards the bottom of the page. Do the same thing. 3 inches, 6 inches. Turn your ruler vertically. Line up those 2 hash marks again. I've already done this, that's why there's a line there already. Draw your line, connecting everything all the way down your page. Not just connecting those 2 dots, but all the way down your page. Use the dots to line it up so you know where your straight line is going to go. Start at the very top of your paper and all the way down. Now you should have what I have, and that is a paper gridded with 3-inch squares all the way across. The next step is to measure 3 inches by 3 inches so that you can make a square out of this thicker paper that matches these squares. So I am going to cheat and just use what I've already got here. Since I know this is 3 inches, I'm going to make a line there. Line this up with the edge of the paper. Make a line there. Making a line at the very bottom. Hash mark just like we did before. And now I'm going to connect that top hash mark and that bottom hash mark. Taking time to line it up really nice and straight. Now I have 1 line. Now I need to do that over here. I need a line this side. Lining up that hash mark and that hash mark. Drawing a line across. Now I only actually need this 3-inch square, so I'm not going to worry about gridding the rest of that because I'm going to cut this out. I'm going to get rid of this. I do not need it anymore. I do still need my scissors and I need my 3-inch square. See how it's going to fit exactly in that spot? Yay! The right size. Now you will need some tape for the next step. So Mrs. Berger is looking for her tape. Alright, I've got some masking tape that will work. The next step is to pick a side of your 3-inch square and you're going to cut a shape out of that. I'm not planning this out. I do not know what it's going to be yet. All I know is that I'm making a tessellation. So I've cut one side out and then I'm going to, oops, I've got to do it that way. Tape it to the opposite side. I'm going to pause my video here. So I've cut this chunk out and I have taped it directly on the side directly opposite of it right here. Now I already did the cut, but I'm going to show you. So I cut this out. Now I'm moving this right up here and that's going to be taped to the top. Whatever you take out of one side, you have to move it to the opposite side. All right, that is my tessellation shape. Anytime I trace it in one square and move it to the next square, it's going to be the same shape. It's going to interlock like a puzzle. So I'll show you what I mean by that. I'm going to take my pencil. I'm going to make sure this is lined up really well and trace the shape that I made. So you'll be getting rid of those lines in here. So hopefully you drew them kind of light. I didn't mention that. I'll show you. So here's my shape that I traced. Now, if I move it over, this is going to interlock right where that one ends. And I'm going to trace it again. I'm going to keep on repeating this where I line it up with what I already traced. And finish off the shape. All right, class, so what I did here is I traced all of my lines with a Sharpie just to make them stand out, especially so you wouldn't recognize or notice all the lines that I had to erase, especially because I drew a little too hard and made erasing a little bit difficult. So try to draw those lightly if you have a chance. Now there's two different ways that we can proceed from here. One of the ways is to kind of go the MC Escher route and see what we can see in the shape that we made. If you notice, it looks kind of like an animal, a bird, a fish. You can design your tessellation tiles to look like that animal. I was kind of imagining a triceratops in my shape. But ultimately, I think I'm going to go the other route. The other route is to keep it abstract and color it using colored pencils, But if you do that, I want to see good craftsmanship and I want to see value with those colored pencils. And if you don't remember what that means, it means I want to see a range from dark to light in your use of colored pencils. So each of these I'm going to color with colored pencils, and I'm going to use value to show a range of dark to light. I've finally finished my coloring of my tessellation. You can see that I used an alternating pattern of cool colors and warm colors, cool color, warm color throughout the picture. And I also used darker tones to show value, so it goes dark to light. So I kept the light parts kind of in the middle and darker on the edges. I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and I can't wait to see the different shapes you come up with. Again, don't be afraid to try to do it even more creatively and make an animal or some sort of creature out of these shapes. I'd love to see what you come up with. All right, I'll see you later. Bye-bye.